I'm Jason Jones. I am 37 years old, and I am the Director of Community Relations for the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation in Kentucky.
Cool, cool. So can you tell us a little bit about your injury?
I was hurt on April 21st, 1990. You don't forget those days. You remember those dates quite well. I was high jumping in a track meet in high school, and it was a state qualifier. And it was down to me and one other guy, and he missed the bar, and I went up to do my last attempt and hit the mat, and the mat sort of gave way. It was an air mat, and there was mulch underneath it, and I went through the mat into the mulch and suffered a spinal cord injury at C4, cervical level 4.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your initial rehab?
Well, when I first got hurt, like when I first hit the mat, I knew that I knew it was something significant because I instantly went numb everywhere, and I could kind of see my body above, or in my mind I could feel my body above me, but I could see my body laying on the ground, which was a weird feeling. I always talked about like it was like the old yard darts game, where I felt like I was kind of sticking out of the ground and my legs were up in the air. So that was sort of a surreal feeling, and they took me from there, put me on the board, all that stuff, and took me to a local hospital, and then flew me to UK for where I was putting traction. And when I went into traction, all my feeling came back. So at that point I thought, well, maybe this is going to be okay. I can recover from this. And 22 years later, not really recovered, but still doing okay. The rehab process was, I spent 40 days at UK at the University of Kentucky Hospital. I was in intensive care for about 3 weeks out of that. I had a lung collapse. I had to have a tracheotomy at that point because of that, and 2 surgeries, and after about 26 days, 24 days, they moved me out of intensive care into just a regular room. And then from there I went to Cardinal Hill about the 1st of June, and I was in Cardinal Hill from June until September of that year, and in a halo brace and doing all the rehab and all that kind of stuff. And the rehab process was difficult because there's a psychological part to it too, and you're kind of trying to accept where you are and where you're going to go and that kind of stuff. And luckily for me, I met some people that really kind of helped me along the way. And I always say, like anytime anybody asks me about my injury, I have to mention my support system. My parents were great. They never let me feel sorry for myself, and never let me think any other thing than that I was going to be okay and move on with my life and do something with it. So I didn't know that failing was an option, I guess is the best way to put it. So, but after the rehab process, when I got out of rehab at Cardinal Hill, went back to school, went back to high school, which was a whole different way of doing things, because in high school I was a 4-sport athlete. I played basketball, football, baseball, and golf, and then I was pretty much could do anything if you used a ball and kept score. And then I was thrust from being a participant to a fan or an observer, which was difficult at times. But high school was tough. It was my junior year. It's kind of that time of your life when you're doing those rites of passage and driving a car and starting to date and do all those things and finding your independence. And I was just surviving. I was going to physical therapy every day, 2 hours a day, trying to get back what I could, and also sort of coexist with the life of a teenager, which is sort of a difficult juggle. It was a difficult juggle at times. So I did therapy for about 3 years after my initial surgery every day, and then sort of transitioned into that time period where you have to make the decision on whether or not you're going to live or you're going to do therapy. And I think at some point everybody has to choose to live. You can do some therapy enough to stay loose and that kind of stuff, but as far as intensive therapy, I pretty much gave it up after about three to 4 years. So.
And what have you been doing with your life since then?
Well, after high school, I went to college. I went to Georgetown for a while, and then to UK, and then on to Eastern, where I graduated and got a degree in journalism. Mass communications, public relations, journalism, and broadcasting. And absolutely just fell in love with it. I kind of felt like doing presentations and being in the public eye and connecting with people was kind of where I was at. And my whole life's sort of been that way of just talking and conversing. And so it was it was a good career to go into. I worked for a little while for the Herald Leader, and then on to I became the sports editor at the Commonwealth Journal in Somerset, and then editor, and then got offered a job with the state in 2001, and that's where I've been ever since. So, and in the meantime, I met a wonderful, wonderful girl about 8 years ago now. Her name is Jessica, and we were married in 2007, March 24th. You don't forget those dates. And well, some do, but you shouldn't. And we now have two little boys. We have a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old, and his name's Micah, and our youngest child was born last June, so he's about 9 months old, and his name's Bryce. So now we work and raise children like everybody else, right? So.
Awesome. And do you have any just pearls of wisdom for people?
You know, as far as spinal cord injuries go, I mean, I think one of the things I was really blessed with is that you kind of got to find out who your real friends were. You know, I have people that thought I was real close to kind of fell by the wayside because the pace of life didn't match up, and so I was able to find those good people, and I just encourage everybody that deals with this is to find somebody who can just do the journey with you. You know, sort of spend the time, and my greatest compliment sometimes is people say, I forget that you're in a wheelchair, or I forget you have a disability, and honestly, I forget I have a disability too sometimes, and that's I think that's a real testament to the people that were there that sort of just let me be Jason early on, and that really helped a lot. And from the therapy side of things, watch what you eat and watch your skin. I mean, it's two of the most important things. You start down the road with skin problems, and it's a never-ending battle. It just doesn't end. It's a constant. You have to worry about diabetes. You have to worry about gaining too much weight too quickly. You got to take care of yourself when you can. And I didn't do that. I did not do that early on. I got up over 300 pounds at some point, and metabolic syndrome set in, and I had a lot of the problems that I could have really avoided had someone told me that 20 years ago. And luckily, we know a lot more now than we did then. But take care of your skin and watch your diet from a physical standpoint. Take care of yourself. Don't smoke, don't drink, or at least in moderation if you can, and try to take care of yourself. There's still so many cool things you can do. You don't have to feel like this is a death sentence or even a slow down sentence necessarily, but just take care of yourself. So.